Tiff, today we've got something really special for you. We got two £150,000 all-wheel drive sports cars. In the red corner,
The Porsche 911 Turbo S.
and in the blue corner,
The Honda NSX.
which one are you going to choose first?
First of all, they're not sports cars.
Oh, yes, they
They're
are.
GT
Oh,
cars. Why does everyone call them sports cars? GT cars.
Okay.
Secondly, hard to choose, but the mighty Southampton Football Club is, of course, the red and whites. So I've got to go red.
Well, Bristol,
go red.
Bristol City's red
I
and
don't
white as
care.
well.
I've chosen red.
I don't care. This is beautiful. I don't care about that. I'm not sure about doing that intro like that again as well. I think it's absolutely my given right to go forward here.
Well, back up.
Come on, I can't go back. Oi!
No, back up.
You got a reversing camera?
Oh, for goodness sake, you can't drive anyway. I'll have to back up for you. Whatever next?
See you.
Flipping hellfire.
I've got to say, much of this video is going to be with me with a smile on my face because I love driving this car. It's just got such a nice feel to it. Got this wonderful big rev counter in front of you, and all the dials change when you change the mode that you want to drive in. I've been driving it mostly in Sports or Sports Plus, and the ride is actually still quite comfortable, he says, as he goes over a big pothole on the English roads and nearly knocks his teeth out. But the car itself's got a 3.5 litre twin turbo engine, and this car has got a hybrid engine as well, unlike the Porsche. And it just slightly edges it by 1 horsepower on the Porsche with 581 horsepower.
The trouble with testing every Porsche 911 is you know you're never going to be disappointed. Everyone that wants to buy supercars asks my advice. And I always say, well, if you're just lucky enough to get over £100,000, you have to buy a Porsche 911 first. Then you can go Lamborghini or Ferrari or maybe even a Honda NSX. But it always begins with this 911 because they're so simple and so good. They've always got these lovely round, beautiful steering wheels. They're simple to operate. I can click through the gears. I've got very few buttons. I can just turn my traction control off with a PASM button. I can put on my sports suspension with one little press. They've got a little bit complicated over the years. I've now got a little knob with my Sport and Sport Plus and all the usual little extras that every manufacturer seems to have. But basically a 911 is a 911.
The seats are super comfortable and the cockpit's nice. Do you know what I really like about this car? Another thing I really love is the simplicity, this layout here. I don't know why more cars don't do it. It's just got simple buttons to push, temperature up, temperature down, buttons here. But then you got this beautiful simplicity and you move on to quite an old-fashioned infotainment screen here with the map that looks like it's a little bit outdated. And indeed, the bane of my life with this car has been, unless you press OK before you actually move off in this car, you can't use the infotainment screen, you can't use the touchscreen, so you can't change anything at all. So that's it's only because this car has an American spec on it. And I suppose the only other thing whilst we're on niggles would be the door handles on the outside. They just don't seem to sort of invite you into the car. But these are all things that you've got to understand, that when you're living with a car for a few days, they might annoy you a little bit, but when you live with a car for a long time, that's no problem at all. I'll tell you something that's definitely no problem at all, is this. Oh, it's got some real power.
But there's one criticism I might have, is perhaps this Porsche has become too good nowadays. And that's a criticism for many modern day cars. They're so accomplished, the PASM or the traction control or whatever you want to call it works so well that you don't realise it's working for you and looking after you. And perhaps sometimes you want a bit of character in a car, you want a bit of nervousness through the steering wheel, especially in a GT car like this Porsche. but it's just so sure-footed. It's so relaxing to drive. You can soak up thousands of miles in a Porsche 911 Turbo S and still feel fresh when you get out the other side. So many GT cars, they're too stiff when you're going on normal roads. And I can change the suspension, I can add a bit of sportiness here on my little sports and sports plus modes. But even then, it doesn't feel too stiff for public roads. Engine note change. Now you hear the engine. Whoa, 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 whoa. And if you think there isn't enough mechanical grip for you, then there's all sorts of active aero going on, depending which mode you're in. The rear spoiler comes up and down, the whole car lowers itself by a few millimetres. The front spoiler's got little flaps underneath that move out at certain speeds. Porsche just think of everything.
Could you drive this car every day? Absolutely. It's super comfortable, the seats are lovely, the driving position's fantastic, you've got this wonderful visibility. I think the only thing that you would really struggle to have this as a daily, one, the fact that you've only got one seat, and two, there's only a very little bit of boot space in the back. So if you're going to go away anywhere for a long weekend or something, you want to pack some soft bags, you might be a little bit tight on space, but it's some compromise to put up with to have this car. It is a lot of fun. It does put a huge smile on your face, which what driving really should all be about. Tiff, how's that Porsche of yours?
It's almost perfect, Paul. I can't believe that that lovely NSX is going to be any better than this.
Well, I don't know whether it's any better, but you should definitely try it out. It is very fun to drive. It's a great car. There's a lay-by here. Pull in left here, Tiff.
All right, I'll try it, but I can't see it's going to beat this beautiful red Porsche. Have you seen my carbon fibre wheels? Have you seen them? I mean, whoa.
They're the first carbon fibre wheels on any Porsche in the UK, apparently. We're very honoured. So inside the Porsche 911 Turbo S. And little does Tiff know, he thinks I'm going to do first impressions, but I've been driving this for the last week, and I have to say, there's nothing to really dislike about the car. Even though it's ridiculously fast and ridiculously well made, it just seems so practical and just so simple and so easy. And you almost want something that's going to be a little bit, sometimes mess up a little bit or not be perfect. But this car is just so perfect. And it's ludicrously fast. 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds. The official time for 0 to 62 is 2.9 seconds, but the engineers at Porsche, they reckon it's closer to 2.5 seconds. Mind-blowing.
It's such a Honda sound. Funny enough, for a completely different style of engine, it still sounds like a good old VTEC howling away behind me. Of course, whilst there's plenty of this hybrid stuff to talk about all those electric motors on each wheel, an electric motor in the engine. You don't really know that's happening as a driver. You can't feel any of that working. You don't plug it in, you don't really know there's an electric car, apart from when you actually set off on comfort mode and it can move, I don't know, a short distance on electric power only. Well, so I'm told. In fact, so I'm told is not good enough in a full road test from Tiff Needell. So we will now stop at the side of the road. We will scroll to quiet. Engine's off. I have fully blue charge on my battery. Now I shall very gently open the accelerator. And yes. Oh, I've moved about 10 feet. I moved about 10 feet. Oh, let's have the throttle back on again. So yes, it will move under electric power only, but not for long. And certainly not if Tiff Needell is driving it.
Everything in the car, the dials, the buttons, the finish, the steering wheel, everything just feels too good. Everything in the car just feels absolutely perfect.
Funny enough, the Honda almost encourages you to go faster than the Porsche does. The Porsche just seems to calm you down all the time, however fast you're going. Whereas this Honda's got a bit more, I want to go faster feel to it. I tell you what, these are both really accomplished long-distance cruisers, grand touring cars, GTs, as I say they are. And this is just a joyous. Who said you can't enjoy driving on the roads anymore? Because I am loving this little drive. Whoa!
That was fun.
How good a day was that?
Wow, one of the best actually.
Whoa!
What did you think of that?
Oh, it's fantastic, isn't it?
It's hard to
Porsche
fault.
911.
Tiff, it's hard to fault. It was absolutely phenomenal.
But then the Honda, I mean, they're quite different characters. When I first got the noise of the engine, I mean, the Porsche's quite sort of quietish. It's quite sort of muted, isn't it? It's understated, the Porsche. The Porsche just sort of gets on with the world and travels. But this was sort of, this actually made me drive faster.
Yeah, it's
all the
very
coloured
exciting.
dashboard and the sound of the engine. And
Very exciting and a lovely noise as well. Really good noise to it.
a little bit of oversteer on that. This is more understeer, more settled on the road than the Honda, but
Definitely far more settled. That was a bit twitchy at times, but I actually quite like that because that is just so perfect. That 911 is just so perfect. It's really hard to fault in any way, shape, or form.
you can only take one home. Which one's it going to be?
I gotta say, Tiff, I really, really, really love this car. But there's a but. Really, 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 really love this car.
Fine.
Same price, everything. But
Yeah.
I just think you would be a very brave man to choose this over that for the same money.
You'll have to fight me for it.
Hang on.
Bye,
a minute.
Paul.
It doesn't
Been lovely.
work that
Cheers.
way.
Bye. It's all right. Bye.
Bye, Tiff. Oh well, I tell you, it's certainly no disappointment to be taking this home. That's for sure.